Thank you, Larry. Thank you for tracing the impact of this important institution and for the charge for all of us to be heroes. And thank you for the book. I'll look forward to reading it soon. Now, we have a very special guest tonight to help the Foundation present the Freedom Award. Dr. David Martin is the Executive Director of the Georgia Council on Economic Education, a post he's held since 1982. In this role, he helps teachers teach economics both in public and independent schools across the state. And he coordinates the efforts of 12 college and university-based centers of economic education. The council collaborates with virtually every organization in Georgia with respect to economics-related programming. Dr. Martin and the GCEE clearly perform well. They received an array of honors and awards, including the John C. Schramm Leadership Award, presented by the National Association of Economic Educators, the prestigious Levy Award for Excellence in Private Enterprise Education from the Freedoms Foundation in Valley Forge, and the Program of Excellence Award from the Georgia Council for the Social Studies. Dr. Martin holds a BA in Economics, History, and Political Science from Westmar College, an MA in American Studies from Purdue University, and an ED Specialist and PhD in Educational Leadership from Georgia State University. Ladies and gentlemen, to present the Georgia Public Policy Freedom Award, please welcome Dr. David Martin.
I'm going to hold my notes where I can see them because what I have to say is much more important than how I look. It's an honor to introduce this year's recipient of the Georgia Public Policy Foundation's Freedom Award. In October of 1962, the rebel chapter of the Young Presidents Organization invited a young management professor from Georgia State College to speak to them at their conference at Callaway Gardens. I mentioned he was a young professor. Dr. Michael H. Mescon had his bachelor's and master's degree from Miami University, a PhD from New York University, and had served 2 years in the Army by the time he was 24. His remarks at that conference on describing the importance of private enterprise were so eloquent and so compelling that the members of that group asked him to go back to Atlanta and create the first chair of private enterprise in America. In 1962, he was a full professor, chairman of the management department at Georgia State, and a well-known speaker, writer, and consultant. Born in 1931, he came to Georgia State in 1956 when he was 25. So in 1962, he was a young 31. He was a popular professor at Georgia State, known for his brilliant lectures. He was also known for locking the door when the bell rang. One day he got a call from an irate mother who told him that she was a taxpayer and she was paying for part of his salary. His response was a vintage Mike. "I've been waiting for your call. Why did you wait so long? You're not paying me enough." His colleagues told him that creating a chair of private enterprise would be the end of his academic career. Boy, were they wrong. Undaunted, the Board of Regents approved the creation of the chair of private enterprise at Georgia State on April 18th, 1963. In October of that year, he created the Center for Business and Economic Education at Georgia State. So in 1 year, he became the father of private enterprise education in America and the father of economic education in Georgia. He created an advisory board for the chair to really advise him on what to do, and equally important, raise the money to do it. You will recognize many of the names. John Adderholt, Lee Burge, Bo Calloway, Tom Cousins, Bert Lance, John McCarty, and J. Mac Robinson. The president of Georgia State, Noah Langdale, and the dean of the College of Business, George Manners, supported him fully. There was one more outstanding member of that advisory board, Richard, better known as Dick Rich, the CEO of Rich's Department Stores. One day, Mr. Rich asked the renowned management professor if he had actually managed anybody. He said no. He said, "You are going to do that now." And so he went to work for Rich's. And at about 10 p.m. on Christmas Eve, when he and Mr. Rich were loading packages into people's cars, he fully understood the importance of customer satisfaction. You remember those days, Mike? The goal of the chair was to create a political, social, and economic environment which would enable private enterprise to prosper and multiply. Here is how they achieved those goals. Larry, it sounds like your group. First, support the chair, the Center for Economic Education, conducting workshops for teachers in the metro Atlanta area. The chair was founded in 1963. The first workshop for teachers began in January 1964. It was called Operation Economics, and there were 32 teachers enrolled. Over the years, thousands of teachers have been served by the center at Georgia State. Later in 1964, the Atlanta City and Fulton County Public Schools were asked to participate in a national pilot program called the Developmental Economic Education Program to integrate economics throughout the curriculum at every grade level. Secondly, lectures and speeches. The chair created something called the Franklin Lecture Series, with more than 50 outstanding speakers from around the country. One of them was Dr. Larry Senich, the first professor to hold the rank of Chair of Economic Education at Purdue University, one of the schools I attended. Another was S.I. Hayakawa. Some of you remember him, a famous linguist who became a congressman from California. I remember his famous phrase, eschew obfuscation, which broadly defined means don't use big words to confuse people. Some of the other speakers, Norman Cousins, Marshall McCune, Studs Terkel. What an opportunity. Number 3, articles. Mike was always a prolific writer, not only of textbooks and journal articles, but also for the popular press. For more than 20 years, he teamed up with his son, Tim, to write articles for Sky Magazine for Delta Airlines, and later for the Atlanta Business Chronicle. Thousands of people were introduced to topics on business and management and private enterprise through those articles. He also reached out to young people. Mike, along with Craig Aronoff, who's here tonight, created the Youth American Economy program for Metro Atlanta high school students. They would come to Georgia State, first hear from Mike and then other outstanding speakers, and then have lunch with the Atlanta Rotary Club, with the top leaders in Atlanta. The students didn't know it, but when Mike made that speech, they were hearing the same speech he charged thousands of dollars to business to give. The speech, which I've heard many times, I know Sally Finch is here from Westminster and she heard it many times, and Craig probably has it memorized. It always began with Ellis Island. And he would ask his mother-in-law, who was from County Cork, Ireland, why she came to America. And Sonny Park, this sounds like you. She said, we came because we heard about the American dream. And we heard that the streets were paved with gold. And later he asked her, when she had settled in Adel, Georgia, some of you'll know where that is, what she had found in America. She said, not only were the streets not paved with gold, but most of them were not paved at all. And if they were going to be paved, we were probably going to do it. And then Mike would ask her, were you disappointed? And she said, never, because we still had the American dream. He reached out and created the Club for Private Enterprise at Georgia State. Others picked up on the idea, and an organization called Students in Free Enterprise was created, which now is in 46 countries, 1,700 plus campuses. And they've changed their name to Enactus. I was reading on their website, and there's been a lot of pushback because nobody knows what that means. They understood Students in Free Enterprise. But the idea is alive and well. When I spoke to those students in the Youth American Economy seminars, he would ask for questions. And there was always a question about profit. Mike loved that question. He said, profit to our economy and to business is like eating or drinking or breathing or the blood that flows through your veins. It is absolutely essential. Without it, the workers have no jobs. The stockholders have lost their investments. And the communities have lost their leaders. It was a great speech. I heard it many times. I couldn't wait. Another thing Mike did was travel around the country to create more chairs. He would go anywhere to any campus that had a flicker of interest in the idea. When Craig Aronoff wrote the 10th anniversary history of the chair in 1973, there were 4 more chairs. Akron University, East Carolina University, Samford in Birmingham, and Texas Christian University. At that time, SMU and Miami University, as Mike's alma mater, were considering chairs. Meanwhile, in 1976, the first Chair of Private Enterprise conference was held, put together by Craig Aronoff, who incidentally, if you don't know Craig, created the Center for Family-Owned Enterprises at Kennesaw State. The first year, there were 35 in attendance from 13 colleges and universities. The second year, 20 attendees from 31 colleges and universities. In the following year, 1978, Mike became the founding president of the Association of Private Enterprise Educators, APE. And he created, along with Craig and another gentleman named Francis Bill Rushing. Bill became director of the Center for Economic Education at Georgia State, the executive director of the Georgia Council, the chairman of the Department of Economics, and he was the second person to hold the chair at Georgia State. One issue that always faced the chair was they never had enough money. Those who are involved in nonprofits understand that. They always talked about the ideal world where they would have an endowment. In 1979, Don Keogh from Coca-Cola said, "We'll give you $100,000 if you can match it with $400,000. That was accomplished in 1982. In 1984, Mike's secretary called him and said, "There's a gentleman wanting to see you in a very loud sports coat. Do you want to see him?" He said, "Send him in." That gentleman was Bernard Ramsey, a native of Macon. Got that, friends in Macon? Native of Macon, senior executive of Merrill Lynch, the largest shareholder in Merrill Lynch stock. He said, "Mike, I want to put you out of the fundraising business." Mike said, "Where have you been? I've been waiting for you." And he asked him, "How much will it take?" He said, $500,000 sounds good. And Bernard Ramsey wrote a check, $1,500,000. He also endowed the chair of private enterprise at the University of Georgia, his alma mater. And if you go to UGA, you'll see his name all over the campus. Mike would hold many other roles during his distinguished career: Dean of the College of Business, Regents Professor of Human Relations, held the chair of private enterprise at the Citadel, created the Mescon Group, and helped create Technology Park at Atlanta. His proudest achievement was marrying Enid and his 3 children, Tim, Jed, and Nance. Over the years, Mike would take the message of the chair to many other audiences, including the clergy, doctors, employees, and the media. He would receive awards from the Joint Council on Economic Education, now the Council for Economic Education, the Freedoms Foundation 3 times, and APPE's Invisible Hand Award, which has only been given 1 time to its founder. It's for all these reasons that the Wall Street Journal called Dr. Michael H. Mescon the Pied Piper of private enterprise. I was exchanging emails with Russ Hardin, the president of the Robert W. Woodruff Foundation yesterday, and I told him I would be introducing Mike tonight. His 3-word response was, "Let freedom ring." I would now like for you to turn your attention to a special message from Tim Mescon that was made in Amsterdam, where Tim heads up the operations of the American Association for Collegiate Schools of Business for Europe, the Middle East, and Africa.
Hi, Dad. I'm talking to you tonight from Amsterdam, And I'm so very sorry that Lauren and I cannot be with you and Mom to celebrate your receiving the Georgia Public Policy Foundation's prestigious Freedom Award in this, the 25th anniversary year of this incredibly important organization. The honor, though, is yours. I wanted just to take a moment to talk about you as mentor, collaborator, advisor, coach, and role model. I had not only the great pleasure with Nance and Jed to grow up in a caring, loving household, but also to work with you professionally for so very many years. You represented to me what was always the best of the best. You always were incredibly demanding, but equally supportive. You set high standards, providing the guidance and support necessary to achieve those lofty goals. It was my great pleasure to work with you for so many years in writing two very fun book projects, and for 20 years of Delta Airlines Sky Magazine articles monthly. It was a fantastic experience for me. And while I give you so much of this credit, it must be said that you've had a fantastic partner for some 65 years, and it was you and Mom that provided this wonderful and caring and supportive platform for the entire family. Lauren and I are so very proud of you, so very excited for the celebration of this evening, and offer our thanks to the Georgia Public Policy Foundation for this special recognition.
On behalf of the Georgia Public Policy Foundation, it is my privilege to present the Freedom Award to Dr. Michael H. Mescon. The award will be accepted by his son, Jed. Mike is with us tonight. Let's give Mike a round of applause. Here's Jed Mescon.
I'm just so impressed that John Stossel stood up, too. Wow. I was in television for years. I've always been your idol. It's an honor to have you here tonight. You know, I knew something was wrong with my dad when he gave me his pristine Mini Cooper and his state-of-the-art bicycle that he cherished, and he rode boundlessly throughout the streets of Atlanta each weekend morning. That's even before the AJC hit your doorstep. Parkinson's disease is very mysterious. No one knows for sure what causes it, or more importantly, what cures it. All I know tonight is that many of you, unfortunately, never got to experience the real Mike Mescon. It was the dapper details that made Dad unlike everyone else, from suspenders to as many pairs of, yes, spectator shoes that made up his wardrobe. He'd walk into a room looking like the guy looked like a fire plug with a necktie. He didn't need to say any words because he always demonstrated confidence wherever he went. Dad always said simply showing up in a state of preparedness may be the answer to solving our productivity problems. After all, in the material world, unlike the spiritual, The meek inherit nothing. And while I'm talking about some of Mike Mescon's best sayings in life, how about this one? Most of us can be winners practically and realistically. Remember this one, Dad? Winning is more fun than losing. Winning organizations recognize this, promote the notion of winning, and reward winners regardless of title, level, or length of service. And one more of Dad's examples before I go. And it's the little things that count in the world of business. He loved this story. At a national movie chain recently, an acquaintance complained to the manager that it was difficult wading through the many boxes, cups, and wrappers in the aisle. In fact, she expressed that there was more excitement in getting to her seat than there was in the film. The manager responded with a big smile. It's too bad we are the only theater in town showing that movie. Needless to say, life with Dad was all about showing up and being ready to play. To Dad's friends and many family who are here tonight, I'm honored. I thank you. And to my mom, it's been a tough few years, but I saw this quote that says that the best things in life are the people you love, the places you go, and the memories you make. Your life with Dad has been nothing but wonderful. And we all wish we could just one day bring that all back to you. You know, I held my dad's hand. I mean, really held his hand for the first time when he was diagnosed with Parkinson's. That touch between a father and a son will never be forgotten. Even today, on each and every visit, he tells me how proud he is of me and my family. Well, tonight, Dad, it's my turn to say those exact words. Thank you all very much.
Congratulations, Dr. Mescon, and thank you for all your efforts to promote private enterprise in our country and around the world. We live in a time when we need that more than ever, and we thank you for what you've started. As a way of further recognizing this honor, the Foundation is making a donation to the Michael Mescon Endowed Chair at Georgia State University in your honor.